Well, welcome back to another Idiot in his Garage. Today we're going to be changing the top mounts on the front suspension, as I've still got that little knock. So let's get to it. Okay, so we're going to change out this top mount. Got 3 bolts at the top, 1 at the bottom. Just remove a few things. We're just going to loosen the wheel nuts off now. So we're going to jack her up, get the wheel off, change the top that over. She's up. And under it goes the axle stand. Okay, so wheel off. That to one side. Get the wheel nuts and the spigot ring out the way. So, like I say, there isn't that much to take off. We're going to lower it down on the jack. Okay, you're down the jack. We've only got to undo 2 bolts at the bottom and 3 bolts at the top. Okay, let me just show you. The drop link nuts, I'm going to undo this nut down here, then the whole thing comes loose. Undo these here, these are just holding it in place. Okay, and also this 12mm here that just holds the brake line there. Okay, so undo the brake line. Like I say, this is just a retaining bolt, just to make sure it doesn't wiggle around and get caught on stuff. Do this first because you're not going to want to loosen the shock off and have it dangling around catching the brake. And just wiggle that clamp off. Okay, then you've got a 19 for this and a 17 for this. Normally end up having to use the breaker on here, but we're going to give it a go. So you can get it on there. Yeah, that's not moving anywhere. We do it the other way around. We use the breaker bar. And we need the extension for the breaker bar, just to be a pain in the arse. Okay, so we still can't throw the breaker in there. Find the thread and get it on. Got to be nice and tight. And there it goes. You think it'd take very much. You can now be able to do that with a ratchet in there. And there we go. Obviously put in all your nuts because you're going to reuse them in a safe place. And what we are going to do is get a jack underneath the suspension, take this pressure off of the mounts and bolts and stuff that we're going to be undoing. We need to undo the 19 of the drop link. We're jacked up a bit too far on this at the moment. I'm going to drop it back down a bit, and then they'll all come quite loose. There we go. Right, so we just need to loosen the top of that drop link off. I'm just loosening this off so we can rotate. Rotate the drop link. We're going to give it a little knock. Almost done. Right, so we check underneath it a tiny bit. Just make it level and it should wiggle out. Doesn't want to, but it will do. Trust me. And then top, just pop this one out. But all I use is a bit of thread, just to tap it out a little bit. There you go. Right, drop link's now out, so all of this is now loose. So all we've got, we're making sure there's nothing caught up. We're going to just undo those top 3 bolts. Let's go do that now. So these are the 3 bolts that we want to undo, and the shock will be out. Good to use a nice extension bar because you can get to everything quite nicely. Right, so this being the last bolt, that's obviously going to make the shock drop down. So we don't want to. We want to make it so we can catch the strut. Not too tight, too loose. We'll hold the strut up. Oh no. We're going to put the ratchet on top, hold the strut still, underneath, and undo that nut. Okay, we're loose, nothing dropped off. Back to the bottom to unhook all of the strut now. What we're going to do is undo the jack. So we're going to loosen off all the top part, lift it back up the top. We should be able to, pushing down very slightly, push the leg. You line it back up the top, push down very slightly, and there you go. It comes loose. Just make sure you're not catching your sensor when you're taking it out. Okay. Right, we're out and we're clear of the car. So this is the job that everybody's scared of. It's not something I'm scared of, but compressing the springs. So what I'm going to do with these spring compressors is just bring them down so they're nice, because we don't need a lot of movement on this. So I'm going to reduce these right down to the lowest I can get. Well, not the lowest, but so just winding these down because I'm not going to need all movement on them. Okay, just roughly where we're going to want them. So hopefully you can still see what I'm doing here. So what I'm doing now is just tightening it down in between 2 coils. And basically all we're going to do is clamp the 2 coils together. We get our ratchet. Our ratchet and extension bar. Stick it in the end. And if I hold this up here, you'll probably be able to see it better. Make sure they're sitting over the springs. Put it on and start tightening up. You can see automatically they come unclipped because I didn't have it fully round. So I'm going to try holding it together. There you go. They bit now, so that's one on and starting to do up. Now we need to do the other side and get the other clamp on. So same thing again, wind it right down. Just need to get a bit of manoeuvre between that spring and the other spring. Bring it down a little bit, we might be able to actually just clip it under. Nearly there. Right, there we go. That's what we're going to roughly want it. It's not a particularly wide spring. Again, same thing. Just start tightening it down. Like it clips over the spring. You get the idea there? Right, so I'm going to put it back down the floor now. And all I'm going to do now is take the pressure off of that top plate. We just need to undo this top bolt. So we're going to use, I normally have a spanner for this, but I can't seem to locate the spanner. So I'm going to hold it with a pair of maul grips. Just basically holding the centre of the shock still while I undo the centre bolt. I'm only going to undo this a little bit, and I will use the spring compressors. Right, I'm quite happy that that's undoing. So now I'm going to wind those spring compressors down a bit, take a bit of pressure off this top hat so we can get it all undone. Just make sure they're on properly. Okay. Like I say, just holding the centre in just while we undo the centre bolt. Okay, so that's the top hat off. Now, I've just had a look between the new top hat and the old top hat, and I mean, you can't see any difference, but I mean, they say that it wears out. I'm guessing that's the rubber that moves around inside it. So we're obviously replacing it all. Now, due to me having very low springs, I can actually not clamp my spring down. And like I said, because my springs are so low, I can actually get the nut on the top of it without actually compressing the spring, because these springs are seriously low. And we can actually just start doing up this nut again. What we're going to do. Right, just making sure that the dust cover goes back over the top and clips in, which we don't know how to do now. There we go, just push it up and clips in. And we're going to use the spring compressors to pull the spring down so we can get this top hat bolted down properly. Right, so we can loosen these off again now. The top hat is now situed, don't need that. Spring's not dangerous, it's being held in with the top hat. We can just loosen these off quite quickly and off they drop. Right, that's one shock back together. So basically putting it back together is the way you came out. You just need to make sure, obviously, you don't catch any pipes or anything like that when you're putting it in.